The Ultimate Universe is coming to an end. So, in the last week, Marvel announced that they are going to end their Ultimate Universe with the end of Ultimate Endgame, an event that they announced a few months ago that I did talk about in a previous video, because they also announced the ending of Ultimate Spider-Man as well. And it seemed like that was going to be it, that Ultimate Endgame was just going to be an event to wrap up the Maker storyline, and Ultimate Spider-Man was going to end, at least with Jonathan Hickman writing it. So it was still a little up in the air of where the Ultimate Universe was going to go. However, as we now know, due to Marvel announcing it, the Ultimate Universe is coming to an end. And I have some thoughts on this personally, but we did get a Twitter thread from one of the authors of one of the Ultimates books from the Ultimates, Dennis Camp, who is currently writing it, is going to be writing it by the time that it is done. He's actually kind of been the forerunner for the Ultimate Universe in a way, even though it was started and kind of pioneered by Jonathan Hickman. But Jonathan Hickman, if anything, kind of just set the groundwork for it, and more than likely was giving the authors a couple notes of where they want to go, or at least where he was planning for this universe to go, but also allowed them to do their own things in it. Like, Ultimate X-Men is purely, you can tell if you read any of her previous work, that it is very much just a Peach Momoko story in the best way possible. Not saying that's a bad thing, just want to say that. But Peach Momoko is definitely just doing what she wants with Ultimate X-Men, but keeping it within the universe that Hickman set up. And I think it worked very well for these books that have been in the Ultimate Universe. Some of them haven't been great. I'm not the biggest fan of Ultimate Wolverine outside of what they did with Sabretooth, and I just couldn't really get into Ultimate Black Panther. But Ultimates was great. Ultimate X-Men was something fresh and new that was also great, and so was Ultimate Spider-Man. I know some people are kind of weary on it now. I think a lot of the hype kind of died down with it, but honestly, to me, I still like the book. It's not, my least favorite. It's still something that I'm going to pick up every single week that it comes out. And that's what makes it pretty heartbreaking to hear that this is going to be the end of the Ultimate Universe, and a lot of people had a lot of opinions coming out of this. For the most part, people are very upset because this news also came out during the same time that DC was unloading a lot of their Absolute lines, and people were comparing the two. DC is really going all in on this Absolute Universe, while Marvel is ending their alternate universe, the Ultimate Universe. People are bound to compare. They kind of see this as a failure while DC is succeeding, which is very much true. DC is very much succeeding with that Absolute Universe. But I have a lot of mixed feelings on this. I'm definitely somewhat in the majority opinion of why would they do this? This is dumb. It's like they're trying to shoot themselves in the foot. However, that was before I read this thread by Dennis Camp. Again, he is kind of like the guy who has picked up the Ultimate Universe ever since Hickman kind of just decided to drop it. Honestly, I think this is probably what it was planned to be. Hickman setting up the groundwork and allowing someone else to fill in, or at least participate during the end. It seems like Hickman just wanted to do Spider-Man, so he let someone else do Ultimates, and now he's just become the forerunner for it. I'm pretty sure he is going to be writing Ultimate Endgame, so a lot of the story that he's been setting up in the Ultimates is going to get carried over, and we'll see how this all works with the crossover stuff going on. But I'm excited for it, but again, I'm still disappointed that it's ending. However, I feel like my opinion before, when I initially heard this news, was kind of changed after reading this thread by Dennis Camp. So here we have his thread. Okay, the end of the Ultimate Universe from my perspective. It's true that the original plan was not to end the universe. A lot of my run is setting up characters I hoped would go on past me. I think I made that clear and obvious. Jonathan Hickman was ending his run at 24. That was always the case. He was done. Peach and Brian, the writers of X-Men and Black Panther, were both ending their stories when the Maker got out as well. This is someone who has worked very close, with the background of this stuff, so this is, I believe, a valuable source, because this is coming straight from running the writers. And when it came to the reactions of the Ultimate Universe ending, a lot of people were of the mindset that this was being done without the approval of the writers at hand. And what Dennis talks about later is that he wanted to continue forward, but apparently he was the only one who wanted to. At least from what he says here, Peach Momoko and Brian Hill wanted to end their stories, which I could definitely see from Peach Momoko's perspective of being I just want to tell this one story of these girls in Japan, these X-Men. And Brian Hill, I could definitely see that as well. It seems like they definitely had a beginning, middle, and end, but a lot of people, I think justifiably so, thought that these were going to be titles that people wanted to work on forever because there was a lot of setup there that they could explore later on down the line, but it seems like we are going to get definitive ends to these stories. That was their decision, according to what I've been told / my interactions with them. And it makes sense. Think about it. Peach is writing and drawing every issue for 24 issues. That's insane. Yeah, that is godlike level work. She works like 20 hours a day on that book, no joke. She's the hero of the line. She deserves a break if she wants one. Wolverine was only meant to be 12, but then got extended to 16. The other creators were offered more issues to run alongside Endgame, but they declined. I saw that happen. The only person who planned on continuing was me. And that's the thing, is like, I feel like ending this would be a bad idea, because like, even if every other writer stepped down, you still have one person who is doing a very good run that is selling well, by the way. Like, it's not like these books are not selling. They are selling, but because the people behind them don't want to write them anymore, Marvel's just kind of like, okay, we'll just end the entire line now. But like, I feel like they could continue on the Ultimate Universe with Dennis Camp's Ultimates alone. I think there would still be an audience there who would be so hyped to read his stories. Here's the thing too, Dennis Camp is one of those writers that is like, he is big right now. Absolute Martian Manhunter is one of the best books of the year, maybe of all time, if we're going to be honest. I mean, we're going to have to wait until, we can really digest that story once kind of it's all wrapped up and finished, and we can look on it in a year or so before we can have that conversation, in my opinion at least. But like, this is such a talented writer who clearly is excited to explore more of this universe, and he's the guy who's writing Endgame. He's become the forerunner for this universe, more or less. Just let him do it. Just let him do it. Even if you have no other books to sell, you could maybe make more books. It's not like there aren't other creators who wouldn't want to play in this universe or do their own thing, so who knows? Initially, still very early, those books were going to end as those creators left, and Ultimates would have continued and new books launched. I was pushing for Hawkeye, Guardians was discussed, etc. This was all very vague. But then Will Moss came to me and said, hey, I think we're going to end it. End it. This was a long time ago, at least a year before now, I think, but I had to check. Not because the books are too woke. If it were that, they'd interfere with the writing of it, which they haven't, or because the main line is jealous. This is silly, money is money to them, but because everything seemed to be coming to a natural conclusion. Now, the mainline thing honestly was kind of my opinion when they announced the ending of this. My initial thought was like, oh, they're just kind of upset that this alternate universe is selling better and doing well than the mainstream books, because like, I could see Marvel being that petty. I could. Like, Marvel has a way of just shooting themselves in the foot, of making just the worst decisions they possibly can when it comes to their mainline books, that I could see that being the case. Obviously, again, Dennis is saying that's not, but to me, it's kind of hard not to believe that when, like, nothing Marvel has done in the last few years has made sense when it comes to trying to succeed as a company. Like, turning Miss Marvel into a mutant, why did they think that was going to make them more money or get more eyes on them? Why did they think taking Jonathan Hickman off the Krakoa era was going to do well for them? When that happened, everyone could obviously tell that now this was just in a state of limbo and a mess, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were plenty of people who decided to jump off once they saw that. Maybe not because they liked Hickman's writing, but just because they saw that as a sign that there was no more clear direction of where they were going with that. And that's just the X-Men part of it. There's been plenty of other problems with mainline Marvel, like how the fuck does Iron Man keep getting new number ones and new series? Same with Scarlet Witch, by the way. And the thing with Iron Man, at least there's like new writers every time, even though he can't seem to keep a book. But with Scarlet Witch, they kept rebooting, like they kept relaunching her title with the same person writing it. They kept giving her new number ones. Same with Fantastic Four recently. Ryan North is still writing that book, even though he's still like, it's just a continuation of his run from the previous Fantastic Four. Like, I don't know why they're so obsessed with not just allowing this stuff to continue and instead just trying to force, like eyes on their project by doing stuff that the fans are just tired of. Fans are getting tired of new number ones because they know nothing's going to change. They're tired of these new initiatives every other month, like with the X-Men. Like, they constantly are doing new initiatives and new, eras, new ages for the X-Men, and people are just getting tired of it. Like, DC somewhat isn't that different, but they do it less consistently, in my opinion. Like, All In and Dawn of DC, the timeline between those two was a couple years, so it gave fans a good chunk of time where they didn't have to worry about these new initiatives and stuff like that, but also they worked out very well and were allowing some creators to do stuff different. Obviously, some creatives still stayed on even during those new initiatives. Like for All In, Chip Zdarsky was still writing Batman, and it wasn't until recently that we got a new writer who's doing something new. But again, we're getting something new. With Marvel, it just never seems to change. The only new thing I feel like Marvel really did was with the latest Iron Man run. But even then, that title just didn't last all that well. I'm pretty sure they even said it's ending. But yeah, it's hard for me not to believe the whole mainline jealousy thing, because again, it just feels like they're willing to shoot themselves in the foot over stuff like this because they just don't make the right decisions. They felt like they had something special with the universe as it was, consistent creative visions that told their story and had a clear beginning, middle, and end. An accessible, creator-forward reimagination of the Marvel Universe, a version of the never-ending story that ended. And honestly, here's the thing, that is true. That is kind of my other side of the coin when it comes to this whole ordeal. I want this universe to continue, mostly because at least Dennis Camp wants it to continue. You can end X-Men, you can end Wolverine, Black Panther, and Spider-Man, but you could continue Ultimates. I don't think anyone's going to be upset about that. So there's that aspect of it. It was even if it's just one person, the guy is very talented and wants to keep doing it, so let him. But on the other hand, it is kind of a let's end this now before we have a chance to really ruin it. At least giving it an ending. Because honestly, one of the biggest problem of comics in general is the fact that they never end. You never really get a lot of growth with characters because that stuff can be undone by a new writer because, they gotta stick with the same old character. So sometimes a new writer's vision of a character is not going to include some stuff that was worked on in previous issues. It is the never-ending story. And some, aspects get completely ignored. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to comics that make it kind of frustrating with the fact that they just don't end. So at least this story, there is an ending to it. So there isn't anything else they can muck with it because it is a pretty good story. It is. The only problem is that there is a lot of promise that could be explored more, a lot of great aspects that they could go further with, that just won't because of its end. And that the purity of the vision they think could pay dividends for a long time after, if it didn't overstay the welcome, dilute it, or fumble the ending. Yes, I had plans for stuff coming after, continuing this world, and part of me was bummed about that. But in my heart, I think I knew that they'd be lesser. Moreover, for me, the Ultimate Universe has been a place for trying new things in comics, radical things. Whether it's the real-time pacing or the radical interventions, I think that's supposed to be reinventions. Whether it's the real-time pacing or the radical reinventions of Marvel characters, or the formal play that had characterized my run, that's what excited me about the Ultimate Universe excites me still. And this, really truly ending the universe on a high note, having it be this contained thing, giving the story an end, that's radical for Big 2 Comics. Yeah, that's true. It's something you don't really see in Big 2 Comics is hey, we're actually giving the story an ending. It's something that, to the best of my knowledge, has never been done on the scale by Marvel or DC. This is exciting to me. I hope it is exciting to you, but I don't mean to tell anyone how to feel about any of this, and I don't want to speak for anyone. Perhaps I've been misinformed or feelings have changed. I don't know, but this is how it is from my perspective. And this is something I kind of wish, happened more in this industry, not just giving stories an ending, a definitive ending, but also I really love this level of transparency that Owen Likes Comics pointed out in the comment. He's very transparent about this process because obviously he saw the fan outrage of the Ultimate Universe ending, and I feel coming out with it's when Scott Snyder came out about the mainline Green Arrow book getting canceled. He was it's because of sales. It just wasn't selling, which is unfortunate. It is a type of transparency I wish existed more in the comic book industry because I feel a lot of these executives, the people up top try to hide this stuff. But transparency in this regard is for the best because there is a lot of problems with the comic book industry. One of the main ones, in my opinion, talking about the Green Arrow comic that got canned and the Iron Man comic that got canned, is that they need to do better at advertising these books. Unless it's their big stars like Spider-Man or Batman, it doesn't matter if those runs are actually good or not, or if they're just slop. They will advertise those way more than they will advertise a Iron Man run written by someone who has experience with the corporate world and knows how to tell a very good story critiquing that. Or a Green Arrow run which really plays into his social justice outlook, his very leftist outlook. But instead of advertising runs that are critically acclaimed that people are loving, they rather just advertise their event slot unless it's Batman or Spider-Man or whatever new X-Men title they're running that they're just like piecing together, that it will do the numbers of Krakoa X-Men again. I want this industry to be better. I really do. Like, I think the best thing these two companies really had to offer in terms of like their big scale stuff had to be the Ultimate Universe, the Absolute Universe, and the announcements of them doing crossovers again. Like, in terms of big stuff that they've been doing, that's really been the only stuff that's been succeeding. And it's when you allow these creators to be creative and do whatever they want. Like, if you read Deadpool Batman, you could just tell that was just the creators being like, oh, we just get to do whatever we want. We get to like mash these two characters together and do like a fun crossover. Okay, we're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna tell some pretty good stories. And fans, I mean, if you went on Twitter, a lot of people had problems with it, but overall, it was like a fun book. Overall, I made an entire video about it if you want to check that out. But like, when you allow these creatives to be creative and do what they want, it turns out pretty good stuff, but it's still your job as a publisher to adequately advertise these things. Hello everyone, thank you for watching today's video. If you would like to see other videos like this, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you would like to see me talk about more political stuff, then you can check out my main channel, Fruity Soar. And if you would like to see me play video games, I have a channel called Fruity Soar Gaming where you can check out those videos there. Anyways, that's all I have for today, and I will see you all next time.